They questioned her clearance for the nuclear mission until she flew into history. When Major Sarah "Ghost" Mitchell's name appeared on the pilot roster for Operation Midnight Hammer, the room fell silent. Colonel Davidson shook his head. Nuclear missions aren't for women. The psychological pressure is too intense. But the 34-year-old B-2 pilot was about to make history in ways no one imagined. June 21, 2025, brought unprecedented tension to Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, home to America's fleet of B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. The sprawling facility buzzed with activity as ground crews prepared 7 of the world's most advanced aircraft for Operation Midnight Hammer, the largest strategic bombing mission since World War II. Iran's uranium enrichment had reached 60%, dangerously close to weapons-grade levels threatening regional stability and global peace. The underground facilities at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan represented an existential threat that demanded immediate action. The classified briefing room held 14 of America's most experienced B-2 pilots, each selected for their expertise in flying the $2.1 billion stealth bombers. Major Sarah Mitchell sat among them, her presence drawing skeptical glances from colleagues who questioned whether a woman belonged on such a critical mission. "Gentlemen," announced General Patricia Hayes, though her eyes briefly acknowledged Sarah's presence, "this is the most important strategic mission of our generation. Iran's nuclear facilities must be neutralized before they achieve weapons capability." Colonel Hawk Davidson, a 20-year veteran with multiple combat deployments, leaned toward his wingman. "I don't understand why they're sending her," he whispered, his voice carrying the bias that had followed Sarah throughout her 12-year career. "Nuclear missions require nerves of steel. The psychological pressure alone—" Sarah heard the comment, but maintained her professional composure, understanding that her performance would speak louder than any words. Her assignment to attack Fordo, the most heavily defended target buried 90 meters underground and protected by 200 feet of reinforced concrete, was both an honor and a test. The doubts surrounding Sarah's inclusion in the mission reflected broader military attitudes about women in combat roles, despite her flawless record and extensive B-2 experience. Her call sign, "Ghost," had been earned through her ability to disappear into the sky, but some colleagues saw it as evidence that she preferred to avoid confrontation. "She's never flown a combat mission," observed Major Collins during the pre-flight briefing. "This isn't training, this is war." What her critics didn't understand was that Sarah's 12 years of B-2 experience had prepared her for exactly this moment, and her Jewish heritage gave her a personal understanding of the stakes involved in preventing nuclear proliferation. The 7 B-2 Spirit bombers lifted off from Whiteman Air Force Base in the pre-dawn darkness, their triangular silhouettes disappearing into the night sky like mechanical phantoms. Sarah's aircraft, loaded with 2 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator bombs, climbed steadily toward its cruising altitude of 50,000 feet. "Ghost 1 radio check," came the voice of the mission commander over the encrypted communication system. "Ghost 1 loud and clear," Sarah responded, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the mission ahead. The 37-hour flight would test every aspect of her training and endurance, requiring multiple aerial refuelings and navigation through some of the world's most heavily defended airspace. The formation flew in complete radio silence as they crossed the Atlantic, their stealth technology rendering them invisible to radar systems that might detect conventional aircraft. Sarah monitored her instruments with the precision that had made her one of the Air Force's most trusted B-2 pilots. Her grandfather's compass, a family heirloom from World War II, mounted beside her modern navigation displays. Approaching first refueling point, she noted in her flight log, preparing for the delicate process of connecting with a KC-135 tanker aircraft while maintaining formation integrity. 8 hours into the mission, as the B-2 formation crossed into Middle Eastern airspace, Sarah's navigation systems began experiencing interference that threatened to compromise the entire operation. Iran's advanced electronic warfare capabilities were jamming GPS signals with a sophistication that intelligence had underestimated. Ghost 1, I'm showing GPS degradation, Sarah reported over the secure channel, her voice maintaining professional calm despite the serious implications of the system failure. Copy Ghost 1. All aircraft report similar interference. Switch to backup navigation systems. But Sarah's backup systems were also affected by the jamming, forcing her to rely on the celestial navigation techniques she had learned as a backup to modern technology. Using her grandfather's compass and star sightings through the B-2's limited windows, she began the complex process of manual navigation that few modern pilots had ever attempted in combat. Polaris bearing 015 degrees, she calculated using the North Star to verify her position. Terrain features confirm we're approximately 8 kilometers south of planned track. Her ability to navigate by stars and terrain while flying a stealth bomber through hostile airspace demonstrated skills that went far beyond standard pilot training, proving that her selection for the mission had been based on competence rather than politics. The GPS jamming affected all 7 B-2s in the formation, but Sarah's manual navigation skills made her the de facto navigation leader for the entire mission. Her calculations and course corrections were transmitted to the other aircraft, whose pilots relied on her expertise to maintain their planned route to the targets. Ghost Flight, this is Ghost 1, Sarah transmitted. Recommend course correction to 085 degrees to compensate for navigation drift. New time to target 47 minutes. The responsibility of navigating 6 other aircraft while preparing for her own attack on Fordo added layers of complexity that would have overwhelmed less experienced pilots. Sarah's ability to multitask under extreme pressure demonstrated the mental toughness that her critics had questioned. Ghost 1, this is Ghost 7, came a transmission from Major Rodriguez, one of the pilots who had initially doubted her inclusion in the mission. Outstanding navigation work. We're right on track thanks to your calculations. The acknowledgement from a fellow pilot represented a shift in perception that Sarah had been working toward throughout her career. Her competence was finally being recognized by colleagues who had previously seen only her gender rather than her abilities. As the B-2 formation approached Iranian airspace, Sarah began the final preparations for her attack on the Fordo nuclear facility. The underground complex represented the most challenging target of the mission, requiring precise delivery of the massive bunker buster bombs to penetrate the facility's extensive defenses. Ghost 1 approaching initial point, Sarah reported as she separated from the formation to begin her individual attack run. Target acquisition in progress. The Fordo facility appeared on her targeting systems as a small cluster of buildings that concealed the extensive underground complex beneath. Intelligence reports indicated that the facility housed Iran's most advanced uranium enrichment centrifuges, protected by layers of concrete and steel that only the MOP bombs could penetrate. "Target locked," Sarah announced as her weapon systems confirmed acquisition of the precise aim point required for mission success. Bomb bay doors opening. The B-2's internal weapons bay revealed the two massive bombs that represented the culmination of years of development and testing. This would be the first combat use of the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, and Sarah would be the pilot to make history with their deployment. Sarah's approach to Fordo was complicated by the discovery that Iran had repositioned its S-400 air defense systems to create an unexpected kill zone around the facility. The surface-to-air missiles posed a lethal threat to even the stealthy B-2, requiring immediate tactical adjustments to avoid detection and engagement. Ghost 1, be advised, SAM sites have been relocated from intelligence estimates, warned the AWACS controller monitoring the mission. Recommend immediate course deviation. Sarah had 30 seconds to make a decision that would determine the success or failure of her mission. Flying the planned route would expose her to the S-400 missiles, but deviating too far might compromise her ability to deliver the bombs with the precision required to destroy the underground facility. Ghost 1 executing low-level approach. Sarah transmitted making the split-second decision to fly 5,000 feet lower than planned and use the mountainous terrain for cover. The maneuver was extremely dangerous, requiring her to fly the massive bomber through mountain valleys at altitudes that left no margin for error. But Sarah's understanding of the B-2's capabilities and her confidence in her flying skills made the impossible approach feasible. Sarah's 8-minute flight through the Iranian mountains at dangerously low altitude was a masterpiece of precision, flying that pushed both pilot and aircraft to their absolute limits. The B-2 Spirit, designed for high-altitude stealth operations, was being flown like a fighter jet through terrain that challenged even the most experienced pilots. "Terrain clearance 200 feet," Sarah noted as she maneuvered the massive bomber between mountain peaks, her hand steady on the controls despite the extreme stress of the situation. Maintaining stealth profile while avoiding SAM engagement zones. The Iranian air defenses launched 12 surface-to-air missiles during her approach, but Sarah's use of terrain masking and the B-2's stealth characteristics allowed her to avoid all of them while maintaining course toward the target. Ghost 1 missile launch detected, warned her defensive systems as another SAM streaked past the aircraft. Recommend immediate evasive action. "Negative," Sarah replied calmly, maintaining attack profile, target acquisition in 30 seconds. Her decision to continue the attack despite the missile threats demonstrated the kind of courage under fire that defined the military's finest pilots, proving that her selection for the mission had been based on merit rather than politics. At exactly 6:23 p.m. Eastern Time, Sarah achieved perfect weapon release parameters over the Fordo facility, delivering both GBU-57 bombs with surgical precision into the center of the underground complex. The massive weapons, each weighing 30,000 pounds, penetrated 200 feet of reinforced concrete before detonating deep within the facility. "Ghost 1 bombs away," Sarah reported as the weapon separated from her aircraft. Direct hits on target, secondary explosions observed. The destruction of the uranium enrichment centrifuges at Fordo marked a turning point in the international effort to prevent Iranian nuclear weapons development. Sarah's successful attack had eliminated years of nuclear research and development in a matter of seconds. Ghost 1 outstanding work, came the voice of the mission commander. "Target destroyed, RTB when ready." Sarah's return to base RTB order marked the successful completion of the most challenging phase of her mission, but she still faced the 18-hour flight back to Whiteman Air Force Base. Her fuel management and navigation skills would be tested once again as she made her way home through potentially hostile airspace. Ghost 1 departing target area. Sarah transmitted as she turned toward home. Mission accomplished. Sarah's low-level flight through the Iranian mountains had consumed significantly more fuel than planned, creating a critical shortage that threatened her ability to reach the planned refueling point. The B-2's fuel-efficient design was optimized for high-altitude flight, and the extended low-level operations had pushed consumption beyond safe margins. Ghost 1 to tanker control. Sarah transmitted as she climbed back to cruising altitude, requesting priority refueling. Fuel state critical due to extended low-level operations. The nearest KC-135 tanker was 400 miles away, and Sarah's calculations showed that she would arrive with less than 30 minutes of fuel, remaining dangerously close to the point of no return. Her navigation skills would be crucial for finding the tanker in the vast expanse of airspace over the Arabian Peninsula. Tanker control to Ghost 1 understand critical fuel state. Vector 270 degrees, 350 miles to contact. Expedite climb to refueling altitude. Sarah's climb to 30,000 feet required careful management of her remaining fuel, balancing the need for speed with conservation of her dwindling reserves. Her grandfather's compass provided backup navigation as she flew toward what she hoped would be a successful rendezvous with the tanker aircraft. Ghost 1 fuel remaining 45 minutes, she reported, her voice maintaining professional calm despite the serious nature of her situation. The aerial refueling operation took place in darkness over hostile territory, requiring Sarah to connect her aircraft to the KC-135 tanker while both aircraft flew at 300 miles per hour. The procedure was complicated by turbulence and the stress of operating with critically low fuel reserves. Ghost 1 contact, Sarah reported as her aircraft's refueling receptacle connected with the tanker's boom. Beginning fuel transfer. The refueling process required 20 minutes of precise formation flying, during which Sarah had to maintain exact position relative to the tanker while fuel flowed into her aircraft's tanks. Any deviation could break the connection and potentially doom her mission. "Fuel transfer complete," announced the boom operator aboard the KC-135. "Ghost 1 shows full tanks. Safe travels." Sarah's successful refueling ensured that she could complete the return flight to Whiteman Air Force Base, but she still faced hours of flying through potentially hostile airspace. Her navigation skills and the BIO's stealth capabilities would be tested throughout the long journey home. "Ghost 1 departing tanker," Sarah transmitted as she disconnected from the KC-135. "Proceeding home base, ETA OSO 800 local." The refueling success marked a crucial milestone in her mission, but Sarah understood that she wouldn't be truly safe until she landed back at Whiteman Air Force Base. Sarah's 18-hour return flight tested her endurance and concentration as she navigated through multiple time zones while maintaining the stealth profile that kept her aircraft invisible to enemy radar systems. The B-2's advanced autopilot systems helped manage the long flight, but constant vigilance was required to avoid detection. Ghost 1 passing checkpoint Alpha. Sarah reported as she crossed back into friendly airspace, her voice showing the fatigue of 30 hours of continuous flight operations. No contacts proceeding to home base. The final approach to Whiteman Air Force Base brought Sarah full circle from her departure 37 hours earlier, but she was returning as the first woman in history to complete a strategic nuclear strike mission. Her successful attack on Fordow had eliminated a critical threat to international security. Whiteman Tower Ghost 1 requesting landing clearance, Sarah transmitted as the familiar runway lights came into view. Mission complete. Ghost 1 cleared to land runway 01. Welcome home. Sarah's landing at Whiteman marked the end of a historic mission that had changed the strategic balance in the Middle East, while proving that women could perform at the highest levels of military aviation. Her 37-hour flight had covered thousands of miles and eliminated years of Iranian nuclear development. Ghost 1 on deck, Sarah reported as her aircraft rolled to a stop. Engines shut down, mission accomplished. Sarah's touchdown at Whiteman Air Force Base marked the end of the longest and most significant mission of her career, but more importantly, it represented a historic moment for women in military aviation. As she taxied the B-2 toward its hangar, ground crews and fellow pilots gathered to witness the return of the first female pilot to complete a strategic nuclear strike mission. Ghost 1 taxi to Spot 7 directed the ground controller, his voice carrying a respect that had been absent when she departed 37 hours earlier. "Congratulations on a successful mission." Sarah's response was characteristically professional despite the magnitude of her achievement. "Copy Spot 7. Thank you for the support." As she shut down the B-2's engines and completed her post-flight checklist, Sarah reflected on the mission that had tested every aspect of her training and experience. The successful destruction of the Fordow facility had eliminated a critical threat to international security while proving that competence mattered more than gender in military operations. "Mission complete," she noted in her flight log, the simple words marking one of the most significant achievements in the history of strategic aviation. Colonel Davidson, who had initially questioned Sarah's inclusion in the mission, was among the first to greet her as she climbed down from the B-2's cockpit. His expression mixed amazement with respect as he realized the magnitude of what she had accomplished. "Major Mitchell," Davidson said, extending his hand, "that was some of the finest flying I've ever witnessed. Your navigation through the Iranian mountains and precision bomb delivery were textbook perfect." Sarah's response demonstrated the grace and professionalism that had characterized her throughout the mission. "Thank you, sir. The aircraft performed exactly as designed, and the mission planning was excellent." But Davidson understood that what Sarah had accomplished went far beyond following procedures. Her split-second decision-making, navigation skills, and courage under fire had made the difference between mission success and potential disaster. "You've changed how we think about pilot selection," Davidson admitted. "Competence is what matters, not assumptions." President Trump's announcement of the mission's success was broadcast worldwide, though Sarah's identity remained classified to protect her from potential retaliation. The destruction of Iran's nuclear facilities marked a decisive moment in international efforts to prevent nuclear proliferation. The Iranian nuclear enrichment sites have been completely destroyed, Trump declared during a press conference at the White House. America's strategic bomber crews have once again demonstrated their unmatched capability and precision. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's comment about the boys coming home reflected the assumption that all strategic bomber pilots were male, unaware that one of the mission's most successful pilots was a woman who had just made history. Sarah watched the press conference from the debriefing room at Whiteman, understanding that her achievement would remain classified, but knowing that she had proven women could perform at the highest levels of military aviation. The post-mission debrief revealed the full scope of Sarah's achievement and the challenges she had overcome during the 37-hour flight. Her use of manual navigation when GPS systems failed had kept the entire formation on course, while her low-level approach to Fordo had demonstrated flying skills that exceeded those of most experienced pilots. Major Mitchell's navigation calculations were perfect, reported the mission intelligence officer. Her course corrections compensated for GPS jamming and kept all 7 aircraft on their planned routes to their targets. The analysis of her bomb delivery showed that both GBU-57 weapons had struck within inches of their aim points, achieving the precision necessary to destroy the underground facility while minimizing collateral damage. The successful penetration of 200 feet of reinforced concrete marked the first combat use of the massive bunker-buster weapons. The Fordo facility has been completely neutralized. The intelligence assessment concluded. Uranium enrichment operations have been permanently terminated, and the underground complex is beyond repair. Sarah's mission had achieved its strategic objectives while demonstrating capabilities that would influence military planning for years to come. Sarah's techniques during the mission were analyzed and incorporated into training programs for future strategic bomber operations. Her combination of modern technology with traditional navigation skills had proven invaluable when electronic systems failed. Major Mitchell's approach to manual navigation represents a return to fundamental flying skills that we had perhaps neglected in our reliance on GPS technology, explained Colonel Chen, who oversaw B-2 training operations. Her methods will be incorporated into our curriculum. The low-level flight through Iranian mountains was studied as an example of how stealth aircraft could be employed in ways that their designers had never envisioned. Sarah's innovation under pressure had created new tactical possibilities for strategic bomber operations. She proved that the B-2 is more versatile than we realized, Chen continued. Her techniques will influence how we train pilots and plan missions. Sarah's promotion to lieutenant colonel came with assignment to the Pentagon's Strategic Planning Division, where her experience would influence the development of future bomber operations. Her combination of technical expertise and proven combat performance made her invaluable for planning complex missions. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell represents the future of strategic aviation, said General Hayes during Sarah's promotion ceremony. Her performance has proven that the best pilots are those who can adapt and innovate when faced with unexpected challenges. Sarah's new assignment involved developing training programs that would prepare other pilots for the kind of complex missions she had successfully completed. Her methods would be studied and implemented throughout the Air Force's strategic bomber community. I hope my experience encourages other women to pursue careers in strategic aviation, Sarah said during her promotion speech. Competence and courage are not determined by gender, and the Air Force needs the best pilots regardless of their background. The destruction of Iran's nuclear facilities marked a turning point in Middle Eastern geopolitics, eliminating the immediate threat of Iranian nuclear weapons while demonstrating America's capability to strike heavily defended targets anywhere in the world. Sarah's successful mission had strategic implications that extended far beyond the immediate military objectives. Operation Midnight Hammer has fundamentally altered the strategic balance in the region, explained Secretary of State Antony Blinken during a classified briefing to Congress. Iran's nuclear program has been set back by decades, and their ability to threaten regional stability has been significantly reduced. The mission's success also validated the effectiveness of the B-2 Spirit bomber and the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, proving that America's most advanced weapon systems could achieve their designed objectives under the most challenging conditions. Sarah's role in this validation would influence military procurement and strategy for years to come. Sarah's techniques during the mission led to fundamental changes in strategic bomber training and operations, with her methods being adopted throughout the Air Force's bomber community. Her demonstration that manual navigation skills remained relevant in an age of electronic warfare influenced training programs worldwide. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell has shown us that we cannot rely entirely on technology, explained Air Force Chief of Staff General Charles Brown. Her success proves that fundamental flying skills and pilot judgment remain crucial for mission success. The integration of traditional navigation techniques with modern stealth technology became standard training for all strategic bomber pilots, ensuring that future missions would not be compromised by electronic warfare. Sarah's innovation had created new capabilities that enhanced America's strategic deterrent. Her story also inspired changes in pilot selection criteria, with greater emphasis placed on adaptability and problem-solving skills rather than just technical proficiency. Sarah's achievement remained classified, but within military aviation circles, her story became legendary as proof that women could excel in the most demanding military roles. Her success opened doors for other female pilots seeking assignments in strategic aviation, proving that capability mattered more than gender. "She changed everything," said Major Rodriguez, one of the pilots who had flown with her on the mission, "not just for women, but for how we think about what makes a great pilot." Sarah's legacy lived on in every female pilot who followed her path and in the understanding that excellence in military aviation came from skill, courage, and determination rather than assumptions about gender roles.